aching going on. Yeah, over in Missouri, there's a whole lot of aching going on. Don't be mistaken, there's a whole lot of aching going on.
Going on in the state of Missouri. That's a tight race there for the Senate between Todd Akin, a six-term congressman, and Senator Claire McCaskill, whose husband, she allowed her husband to ink business deals in the Senate dining room. I mean, I cannot imagine what kind of protocol rules that violates for decorum and all that kind of stuff. But all that's going on in Missouri, and of course it's heating up. We're in the stretch run here. And with us to help sort things out is Gina Loudon. She's a Tea Party activist, a radio show host in her own right, and one of the founders, actually, of the Tea Party movement, active very early in the game, frequent guest here on Focal Point. Gina, how you doing?
I am so good and so happy to be back in the Show Me State, where I have a feeling that these just very independent Missouri Show Me State types are going to show the rest of this country how independently thinking they are in this Todd Akin race. It's getting very exciting here, Brian.
Well, now it's interesting to me. This is a little bit tangential, but, you know, the slogan of Missouri is, as you said, the Show Me State. It's like you got to prove yourself to me. So there's this kind of independent streak in Missourians. They don't want to be told what to think. They don't want to be told what to feel. They don't want to be told how to vote. And I'm just wondering, I don't know if you've picked this up. If I lived in Missouri and I saw the way the Republican Party elites had treated Todd Akin, that would just hack me off. I'd want to vote for him just to kind of poke a finger in the eye of the Reince Priebuses and the Karl Roves of the world.
Oh, this is a beautiful opportunity for Missourians, and you nailed it, Brian, just like you always do. You know, I'm on a bus with a bunch of people. RNC for Life is here. FRC PAC is here. Just Susan B. Anthony list is here. I mean, just great people traveling across the country, Gun Owners of America, NRA people. It's just been amazing. And we are really traveling across this state and trying to communicate the message that Missourians, the whole world is truly watching. They have an opportunity here for three beautiful things. The first is to send a message to the mainstream media that Missouri is not about to kowtow to their narrative that Missouri can't think for themselves and are going to act like a bunch of go-along idiots who are going to take whatever the mainstream media prescribes to them. That's not who Missouri is, and we're out to prove that. Also, of course, it sends an amazing message to the statist left. This race, as you know, is just as important as the presidential race in that it will decide the balance of power in the U.S. Senate, for crying out loud. The fate of Obamacare, we have Supreme Court confirmations, all the rest of it. This race is huge, and there's no way we're going to let the left capitalize on basically what was a 6-second scary statement that everybody's pretty much over, if you want to know the truth, in the state of Missouri. And finally, as you mentioned, perhaps the most entertaining part of all of this is that this is an opportunity for grassroots Republicans to strike a fatal blow across the bow of the Rovian rollover GOP establishment and hit their arrogance right where it hurts and say, you know what, you haven't done a lot for us lately anyway, and we can win this without you. So this, I see it as a great trifecta or a triple play, or however you want to look at it, a great chance for Missourians to show what they're made of.
Well, and I defended what Congressman Akin said from the beginning, because I didn't even think he misspoke. I mean, we've seen plenty of data from textbooks on gynecology that indicate that chances of a woman conceiving during rape is less than 5%. And some of that has to do with the stress the event puts on her body. So I don't even think Todd Akin misspoke. You go to a fertility counselor, and one of the first things a fertility counselor is going to ask you, do you have an unusual level of stress in your life, because they know that it interferes with bodily functions of all kinds. But regardless of that, set that all aside, Congressman Akin apologized for what he said. I didn't think he needed to, but he did, and that's fine. That's his choice. But there is not a single soul in America, Gina, not one single soul in America that believes that Todd Akin thinks there's any legitimate form of rape. So they were clearly misconstruing what he had to say. They were misinterpreting what he had to say. They were taking what he said and completely twisting it out of all proportion or out of all alignment with what he actually meant. And everybody in Missouri knew that that's what was being done to his words. And Republican Party elites knew that there's no way in the world. Anybody who knows Todd Akin, he's been around in Congress for 12 years, got an impeccable pro-life, pro-family record. Anybody who knows Todd Akin, is even aware of him, knows there's no way in the world he thinks there's any form of legitimate rape. And so I think, and the folks in Missouri, I think you said, look, it's in the rearview mirror for them. But I think a lot of them, and I don't know if you picked this up, but I think a lot of Missourians probably resent the fact about what's being done to a good and honest and decent man and the way his words have been twisted.
You make a great point, and, I always try to point out, 20 years from now, our children are going to ask us what we did in this race, and I don't care where we're from. I truly believe, not just for Missourians, for your entire audience, Brian, this is probably one of the most important opportunities they have to play in one of the most important historic races ever. Think about this. How many good, solid Christian, foundational types of conservatives are ever going to run again if we let Todd Akin lose this race? Who is going to ever do this to their family? Brian, the main reason Christians won't run is because they're family people who don't want this exactly to happen to their own families. And you heard the horrible statements that Karl Rove made about Todd Akin and his family. I think the GOP establishment better really hope, especially in the state of Missouri, that Todd Akin does win this race, because if he doesn't, I believe the reprisals from this will go on for decades in this state. I think we will have never seen the kind of uprising that we'll see amongst grassroots conservatives against the establishment in the state, and that, frankly, is exactly what the left is hoping for.
Well,
I do... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, it just seems to me it's incredibly short-sighted of the Karl Roves and the Reince Priebuses. I mean, Reince Priebus said, look, even if he's tied with Claire McCaskill, we're not going to give him a penny. He didn't say we're not going to give him a dime, we're not going to give him a dollar. We are not going to give him 1 red cent. He emphatically said that. And now I'm looking at a Mason-Dixon poll that indicates that this thing is basically a dead heat. They've got Claire McCaskill up by 245-43, but that's a dead heat. It's within the margin of error. So this thing is a dead heat, and it seems to me it's enormously short-sighted, Gina. Talking here with Gina Loudon on the ground on the values bus going through the state of Missouri. Seems to me it's incredibly short-sighted for the leadership of the Republican Party to sort of kiss off the Senate seat when control of the Senate is so incredibly important for things like you mentioned, like confirmation of judges. Yeah, and you really get this, and it is so refreshing to me to hear you, somebody who's not in this state, but who really does understand this race. And I'm not surprised, frankly. You and I actually talked about this at the convention. I believe we were talking about this on air. And, this is a choice between a statist and a non-statist, a eugenicist supporting, a woman who supports eugenicist Margaret Sanger and our tax dollars to the tune of $1 million a day continuing to go to Planned Parenthood. This is somebody who has affiliated herself with the Machiavellian-style politics of Barack Obama, where it doesn't really matter what the means are that you get to your final goal by. You just get there. She has rubber stamped 98% of the time, Brian. Claire McCaskill has voted lockstep with Barack Obama. She is literally his mentee. And so to even question for any person who has ever supported any Christian or conservative or Republican values, to even question whether you would not only punch the ticket for Todd Akin, but whether or not you'd be shouting from the rooftops today, everybody go vote for Todd Akin. It's absolutely obscene and absurd, and really we have to call it what it is when we see it. I call it evil. Now, let me ask you, Gina, you're on this bus with a lot of other groups, pro-life groups. I think NRA is represented, but this is basically a values voters bus because Second Amendment is a value for values voters. Where have you been? Where are you right now? And where are you going on this values bus? And then I have a follow-up question.
Well, thank you for asking. Right now, we are in Ozark, Missouri, and we are leaving from here. We'll be arriving in Branson around 3:15, and then tomorrow we've got a big day, too. We'll be in Bolivar, we'll be in Mount Vernon, we'll be in Joplin, and on Friday we'll be in Nevada, Missouri, and yes, it is pronounced Nevada, and I'm having fun seeing old friends from around Missouri, and I have put the schedule up on my page, drginaloudon.com, and if people click on calendar, they'll have the whole schedule, and I'm going to ask your audience specifically, Brian, to go to drginaloudon.com, click on that calendar, let their friends know in Missouri to turn out and support, get their talking points together for church on Sunday, Brian, because you and I know that only about 30% of women who call themselves evangelical even bother to vote on general election day. So we've got to make sure that women not only go vote, but that they bring their friends, their sisters, their moms to get to the polls and speak up for Todd Akin. This is the race of our lifetime.
Now, let me ask you one last question, Gina, down to about a minute and a half here. You've been a lot of different places in Missouri. What's the sense that you're picking up? You're on the ground there. These are the people that are going to go to the polls next Tuesday, the people that you're seeing on this bus tour. What are you picking up? Are you picking up a rising tide of enthusiasm for Todd Akin, or things about the same? What are you sensing?
I am, Brian, and that's evident in the tightening of the polls. Despite the best efforts of the establishment GOP, the statist left, and the mainstream media who are fighting Todd every second of the way, along with a 10-to-1 out expenditure. Clear is outspending Todd 10-to-1, and then, so there is a lot going against this man, but I have seen him win miraculous races before, so it doesn't really surprise me that he really is gaining in the polls, and he is within the margin of error in really what is a statistical dead heat at this point with her. I expect the momentum to be far in his favor. It looks like Romney is going to do very well in the state. I expect a Todd Akin victory here, Brian.
All right, our guest has been Dr. Gina Loudon. Go to drginaloudon.com for more info. For more information. She is on the Values Voters bus in the state of Missouri. Gina, always a pleasure to have you on. It was good to see you again at the RNC, and we'll look forward to a good result in Missouri.
All right, Brian. Thank you so much for having us.
God bless you, Gina. You bet. That's Gina Loudon, boots on the ground in Missouri. Number to call if you want to join the conversation, weigh in on the presidential race, the shifting tides, the change in momentum, the shift toward Romney, what this is going to mean. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. One of the things, I'll talk about that when we get back. Got a couple of sound bites we'll play to start off the next segment about the sanctity of life issue, including a 16-second kill shot on Obamacare. Focal Point AFR Talk, back in 2.
Proverbs 21:5 says,